Carl and Lou here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. And it is, of course, The Nasties, and we're taking a look at the 1980 Italian supernatural horror film written and directed by Dario Argento. It is, of course, Inferno. An interesting movie. One that I kind of feel was very good, very dreamlike, very imaginative, but wouldn't necessarily came away saying I loved it.
No.
I'm kind of on the fence about it. There were many aspects that I thoroughly enjoyed, but it has got a complex story. This thematic overview as well that exists, I guess we'll get into in a minute, it is often more fascinating than perhaps the movie itself, like that aspect of it. Because there is, of course, a thematic sequel to Suspiria from 1977. This film is the second installment of Argento's Three Mothers trilogy. Though this is the first in a trilogy to actually explore the idea of the three mothers. So there's almost some retrospective kind of adding Suspiria to this. The actual third entry was very long delayed. It would conclude in 2007, called The Mother of Tears. So, you know, a massive gap between 1977 Suspiria, 1980 Inferno, and then 2007, The Mother of Tears. That's a 37-year
That's a big
gap. No, 27-year gap, not 37, 27-year gap. I think it's worth mentioning. Don't normally do this, but I think it's worth mentioning in this that the cinematography for this movie was done by Romano Albani and Keith Emerson composed the film's musical score. The reason being is those two things I think are what really makes this movie special. The cinematography and the music, sound and stuff like that. I think it's a really what enhances this, how it looks, how it feels, and how it sounds. It's a major part of it. Sticking to the whole three mothers thing as well. All three films are partially derived, if you don't know this, I'm going to tell you, from Thomas de Quincey's 1845 work Suspiria de Profundis, a collection of prose poetry in which he proposes the concept of the three ladies of sorrow. Mater Lacrimarium, get it right eventually, Master Suspiriorum, and Mater Tenebarium. Now we obviously watched a nasty called Tenebrae.
Yeah.
And I thought there was a link there, but there isn't. It's not related to that. It's just a coincidence, seemingly more than anything else. But all are concurrent with the three fates and graces in Greek mythology. So there is a huge thing going on here, which is, like I said, really, really fascinating. And I wish it was explored better. Imagine if this has been done really, really well. So like Suspiria was an important stepping stone, and we got this, and we did a third film shortly afterwards, and it was this overarching mysterious supernatural world. This was released with 20 seconds cut in 1993, released uncut finally in September 2010, and this one, had those cuts, was never prosecuted. It's one of those. So the cast, we have Leah Mikulski as Mark Elliott, Irene Miracle as Rose Elliott, Eleonora Gorgoria as Sarah, Daria Nicolodi as Elsie de Longueville Adler, Sasha Piotov as Kazananian, I got these names, Alda Valli as Carol, but dubbed by Carolyn de Fonesca, Veronica Laser as the nurse and Mater Tenebrium, Gabrielle Lavi as Carlo, Fedoria Chaplin Jr. as Professor Arnold and Dr. Varelli, Leopoldi Mastaloni as John. I don't know why I've listed so many with difficult names. I'm making it harder for myself. Anna Peroni as the music student and Mater, it's that one, Lacrimarium. Lacrimarium. Close enough. Bloody hell. I'm not good at the pronunciations of these things. That is the majority of the cast. Most reading it back here, I'm like, who are they? You know, that aspect of it. It's not often the characters that you really remember. You kind of remember how it looks and how it feels more than anything else. So the story follows Rose Elliott, a poet living alone in New York City's Upper West Side. She buys a book from an antiques dealer called Three Mothers. There you go. The book is written by an alchemist named Varelli, tells of three evil sisters who rule the world with sorrow, tears and darkness, and dwell inside separate homes that have been built for them by the alchemist.
Nice setup.
Yep, simple enough. Admittedly, the film doesn't necessarily get that aspect across really straightforward, I don't think. I think this takes a little bit of reading up afterwards to put a lot of pieces together. So the three are, well, we've already told you the mother of sighs apparently lives in Freiburg, the mother of tears lives in Rome, and the mother of darkness lives in New York.
Oh,
So,
that's handy.
Yeah, all got some nice places there. Rome, New York, Freiburg, awesome. Rosen's suspecting that she is actually living in Mater Tenebrium's building and writes to her brother Mark, who's a music student currently working in Rome, urging him to come visit her. Using clues that she gets in the book, she thinks she finds where it used to exist or where it exists right now, exploring the cellar of her building and discovering a hole in the floor which leads to a water-filled ballroom. This is where I talk about the cinematography.
Yeah.
This sequence,
It looked great.
it looks fantastic, you know, it really, really is. Even before she gets in the hole, the way it's lit, and like it looks like a portal to somewhere really, really horrible. Of course, you get a jump scare down there by the dead body. It looks amazing. It really, really does. She ends up actually dropping her keys in, which forces her to go into the water, and that's where she gets scared by the corpse rising from the depth, but she manages to swim out and run away. In Rome, Mark, having got a letter, attempts to read it during one of his classes. In the class, he's distracted by this beautiful other student who is staring at him intently.
Yeah.
And the sound kind of goes in a weird, like almost wind rushing experience here. You can tell it's almost trance-like. But she ends up leaving, and Mark follows, but he leaves the letter behind. His friend Sarah ends up picking up the letter and later reads it. She is horrified by the letter's contents, which is weird because we actually hear the letter's contents said out loud, and I don't get why her reaction is that way beyond, this is a bit odd or a bit unusual. And she ends up taking a taxi to a library to find her own copy of The Three Mothers. In the library, again, what an immense... Another thing as well, I guess we should... Like the locations, a lot of the locations.
They pick an amazing place.
Yeah, this library is just...
I want to go there.
Yeah, it's just immense. Like when she walks in first and it's up high, it looks amazing. It really does. But she ends up getting lost and ends up in the basement. She tries to kind of sneak the book out by going out a back way. Ends up going down to the basement, gets lost, and end up finding like a room with boiling cauldrons. We kind of surmise that this might be where binding is made and repairs to books and all that. But it does look very witchy, you know, that kind of thing.
Atmosphere.
Yeah, and there she's attacked by, you know, a dude in a black cloak who's got like a monstrous hand who attacks her after recognising the book, because initially he just tells her the way out.
Yeah.
But then he sees she's got the three mothers, so he tries to attack her and chases her, but she ends up throwing the book on the ground and escaping completely. Returning to her home, she phones Mark, telling him to come, and asks her neighbour, Carlo, to keep her company. But the lights go out, and both Sarah and Carlo are stabbed to death by a gloved killer. So now we're hitting kind of slasher territories that you do often find in Argento style movies. Mark discovers the bodies and two torn fragments from Rose's letter, and the police arrive. He walks out to Sarah's apartment, walks out, and sees a taxi slowly driving by, which has that same music student sitting in the back just staring at her intently. She's proper just like that, you know? We did laugh at bits like this. It's kind of like, he's not like taken away for questioning. You know, he's the one that found the bodies, which naturally might put him under suspicion, but he's just like, oh, off you go. Off you go. Yeah, it's one of those where the police aren't always the best at what they do.
No.
You know? Mark ends up telephoning Rose, and he does promise to visit, but the phone call is cut short. Now Rose sees two shadowy figures preparing to enter her apartment. Talk about her apartment. Her apartment is fucking crazy. You know, the one that suggested that Mater Tenebrium lived within.
Yeah.
It is... looks costly, put it that way.
You always said, how would you afford it as that, but...
We don't know, that's the thing, you know, aspects like that. She ends up running through a back door, but is followed. She then finds herself in a run-down, decrepit-style laboratory, grabbed by a clawed assailant, and then killed with a broken piece of glass, like guillotined with it. Yeah. Deaths like this often cut away from the actual event, and we just sort of see the bloody aftermath more than anything else. These elements are probably little bits where you get those snippets, maybe a second or two here and there, but it's nothing really that you haven't seen elsewhere. Arriving in New York, Mark obviously goes straight to Rose's building, where he meets Carol, the concierge, and some of the residents, including a nurse who cares for an elderly professor named Arnold. He's a wheelchair user who cannot speak, apparently. So yeah, these are now all dropped in. Now, odd sets of characters, seemingly, but more significant to the overall plot eventually. Does it work? This is where I kind of draw questions about the ending, because these characters are just like, oh, here they are. Just plot. And then we won't really see you again until the end, and going to reveal what your role in this is. I'm not entirely sure about it. Mark does encounter the sickly Countess Elsie de Longueville. Adlou tells him that Rose has apparently disappeared. The two find blood on the carpet outside Rose's room. Mark ends up following the stains, inhaling a strange odour, and he ends up becoming full and unconscious. These are the aspects of the movie, I think, where it doesn't always get it across brilliantly what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, it was all a bit like odd. It's a bit, as I said at the start, there's like a dreamlike sense here where you start wondering, is this really happening, or is that aspect really happening, or did he ever get here? Particularly when he wakes up, when he wakes up late afterwards in the lobby, those sort of things. But before that happens, Elsie sees a black robed figure dragging Mark away. I'm losing my place, so let's stop a second. Elsie sees a black robed figure Before that happens, Elsie sees a black robed figure dragging Mark away, but the figure stops and ends up chasing her instead. The figure eventually finds her, and this is odd. She gets swarmed by like rabid cats or feral cats in a room, and this is where it reminded me of the nasty that wasn't a nasty that we did with the bees. It was the one we got wrong and had to redo because we did it as a nasty fan. It was the wrong one, the 80s one with the weird face for the eye. The brother wants to bang his sister at the end of it. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, God.
But yeah, someone in that movie dies via bees. And this is like die via cat. I mean, admittedly, she doesn't actually die. The figure comes in and kills her and stabs her to death. But yeah, it's still like, oh, cats.
Yeah.
All right. And it's not the only animal death that will occur in this, which is really odd. And Mark ends up staggering to the apartment building's lobby where he collapses, and Carol and the nurse find him and put him to bed. He's just shot in a way to kind of make it quite disorientating, and the sort of close-up faces that make you think, oh, okay, they're kind of like not listening to him, you know, and which does add suspicion to their behaviour more than anything else. The following morning, Mark asks Kazananian, the antique dealer who sold Rose the three mothers, about his sister's whereabouts, but this guy has got no interest in helping. No. He's just an odd-looking fella that lives nearby that you not automatically go, well, you obviously involved in some way. The problem is you're often like involved in what? I don't really know what's going on here. Yeah. Like, I don't know what the story is. I don't know what the purpose is. What is the goal? Yeah, is this end of the world stuff? Is this the three mothers will be reborn and then take over? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that. But that night as well, then we randomly follow Kazananian, who hates cats, apparently. So he's always trying to keep them out of his shop. And he ends up bagging some up, taking them to Central Park, like a dirty bit of water, spends ages trying to get them because he's on a crutch or a walking stick, so he's got a bad leg. And he ends up spending ages trying to sink them in it was really drawn out, dry, dark because of where it's filmed. And you're like, what is the purpose of this? Especially as he ends up falling in the water and then gets attacked by hundreds of rats that come crawling out of a drain nearby. You know, and they're biting and all that. And then like a nearby hot dog vendor hears him calling for help, runs over, but then stabs him to death. Yeah. We were like, what is going on? So, you know, I'm like, okay, maybe this is kind of like anyone involved or starts getting too close or involved with the three mothers, and perhaps by him originally selling the book, drawing him into this circle, has to die and the people can be influenced in some way, hence why the hot dog vendor did this. But then, what were the purpose of the rats? Did you control the rats to kill him? Yeah. And why didn't they just finish the job? They would have. They could have.
Yeah, too many ideas.
This entire segment was just baffling, weird, and just not that interesting because it goes on for a really, really long time. Plus, as well, you've got these shots, you know, where he's like, oh, get off me. But we can see like rats just sort of sitting on him quietly and stuff like that.
Very cute.
More strange deaths occur in the building when Carol and Elsie's butler, John, and we find out now he's a character, and we discover that he's plotting to take advantage of the Countess's death by stealing her valuables. Like, this is a thing now? You almost start to feel episodic to a degree. Yeah. That ends up leading to a shocked Carol finding John's corpse in Elsie's apartment and ends up dropping a lit candle, which starts a big old inferno. There's a lot of stuff in his apartment that goes up. So we're like, you know, like the title.
It was quite clumsy, really. It was quite entertaining.
It was entertainingly clumsy.
It kind of falls into the curtains.
Yeah, because she tries to put the flames out, but then it gets tangled in the burning draperies and ends up falling out the window to her death. We were just like, ha, bloody idiot. There's a way to go. It's quite spectacular. Meanwhile, Mark uses the final clue from Rose's letter to discover that beneath each floor is a secret crawl space. I got really excited about this because I love the idea of like perhaps like in between the floors, there's like a separate world. And I always love that aspect of it. I think it does that, and I don't think it does at the same time. It doesn't, it's the problem is it isn't as well told as I would like it to be. Because he ends up following hidden passages to a suite of rooms where he finds Professor Arnold, who reveals via an electronic voice generator. See, that's where the writing's weird. Why not just have him able to talk?
Yeah.
Like, you established he didn't talk at the start, but, like, he could have been able to talk and just, say the odd word here and there. But then you've just gone this extra length to do this electronic voice generator, where he now reveals that he is the alchemist, Varelli, and he tries to kill Mark with a hypodermic injection. This is just plot filler moment here, where he just expouts detail about who he is, the alchemist, and what his purpose was, but not enough to make you go, oh, it all makes sense now.
Yeah.
That's the problem. During the struggle, though, Valeri's neck is caught in his vocal apparatus. Did like that. Looked good. Looked like he was properly being strangled. Mark does free him, though, only to be told that he's still being watched as Varelli does die. Mark then follows a shadowy figure to a lavishly furnished chamber. Again, looks amazing. The sets are great. The locations are amazing. And there he finds Varelli's nurse. Yes, the nurse. Yes. Okay. Right, so there you go. So that's the big villain. The character that was barely in it.
Yeah.
Okay. She laughs maniacally, revealing that she is Mater Tenebrium. She then vanishes, but re-emerges through a mirror, which is a very well done effect. I really will credit these aspects. It is difficult, and it's done really well. But as death personified, the looks cool and all that, It's a cool ending, I just wish it all made more sense. Maybe it's us. Maybe it does. Maybe other people can make sense of it more than we could. I was engaged. I wasn't bored. I just wanted this really concisely and well-told story done. Because imagine that with everything else that we praised, the cinematography, the music, the effects. It would have been in heaven.
Would have been right at the top of our list.
Absolutely. Yeah. However, that fire that was started, that's consuming most of the building. And that allows Mark to escape from Mater's den, with debris crashing down on the Fiend, destroying our Mark, leaving the house as it burns down, basically. And that's your ending. And it's a cool ending. It's spectacular, the fire and elements like that. But you just, at least we were left going, all right, did I like that? I'm not sure if I like that.
I wanted more concise.
I wanted oomph. I wanted this. If you're going to do that and want to let my imagination flow, just basically what is missing is I've got this outline, right? But it's really hazy in places. And I need that solidified. So then I can use my own imagination to create this larger, grander, more terrifying world of the three mothers. This dimensional, supernatural existence where the purpose is nothing more than existing and waiting for people to discover them so they can drive them mad and kill them. That's it. That's an aspect I can be on board with. But that overarching outline feels too blurry, feels too fuzzy around the edges for me to fully grasp and get on board with the overall thing. I don't think you can turn around and say, go watch Suspiria and you'll understand it better. I don't think that works because Suspiria doesn't mention the three mothers. It's only now in after the effect that we now know Suspiria was the first part of it.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like, I don't think...
It's not obvious.
Yeah, it's not obvious. And I've seen Suspiria. So I don't see the link as clear as it's stated. I feel like it could have been a lot... Like, the thematic idea could have been a lot stronger. We've seen this done before. We've seen this in other movie series as well. Not necessarily a direct sequel, but the sense of the bigger world and a bigger, grander thing. That's its criticism. But aside from that, I think Inferno looks lovely at times. The cinematography is fantastic. The sets are great. The locations are varied. The building, the rooms, the flooded area, even the parts of Central Park. There's a lot of cool shit going on there. Even stuff as simple as the lecture hall in Rome. It looks great. I love that, It really, really does. Elements like that, the sound, the music, the colours, the lighting, the effects, the fire. Weirdly enough, do you know what we're ignoring the most? The gore.
Yeah.
Which is odd in it, considering it's a nasty. But, there's plenty of it.
Yeah.
The deaths are violent, bloody. You have the choking, you have the glass death, you have a lot of stabbings, you have stuff like the rats and the cats with scratches and all shot, like, really, obviously, to make it...
Crazy, yeah.
You make it clear that the cats aren't really... Like, to not make it clear that the cats are just going, kiss me and hug me and stuff like that.
Mr. Whiskers is like a savage.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But there's nothing here that's making you go, oh, right, that's why it was a nasty. Beyond, blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it does not, I can't remember, there's no nudity per se. When the sister goes in the water at the start, I'm pretty sure that's about what you're going to get as a top becomes see-through. I think that's about all you get in regards to nudity. Can't really remember. Maybe there's more, but I can't really remember anything off the top of my head that I can picture in it. But I remember a lot of it. That's the thing. I remember a lot of this movie, so it definitely had some impact. And it is fairly long. I think it was around an hour, 40 minutes. And I don't think it felt that. So maybe we could be a bit more positive about it than we really remember, you know? Maybe it's one of those as well that deserves eventually a second rewatch, another rewatch, to then go, all right, now I know what the overarching picture is. Let me pay...
Would I enjoy it more?
Yeah, would I be able to pick up on stuff I hadn't before, you know?
Yeah.
That's Inferno, the Nasty. You got any thoughts and you know what to do? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?